Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into something that might make us a little uncomfortable, but it's so important. We're talking about two dangers in the pursuit of God: modern day idolatry and dead orthodoxy.
Yeah, and before anyone thinks this doesn't apply to them, let me start with an analogy. Think about the difference between knowing about love and actually being in love. You could read every romance novel, study the psychology of relationships, memorize poetry about love, but until you've actually experienced it, felt your heart race, stayed up all night talking to someone, you don't really know love. You know about it.
That's such a good distinction. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here. There are two ways our faith can go wrong. We can end up worshiping a false god of our own making, that's idolatry, or we can settle for lifeless intellectual knowledge about the true God, that's dead orthodoxy. Both are dangerous. Both rob us of real relationship with God.
Let's start with modern idolatry. When we hear that word, we might picture ancient people bowing to statues. But idolatry today is much more subtle and, honestly, much more prevalent than we'd like to admit.
Absolutely. At its core, idolatry is putting anything in the place that belongs to God alone. It's giving our ultimate allegiance, our worship, our trust to something other than Him. And here's the thing: it doesn't have to be something bad, it can be something good that we've made ultimate.
Right, like materialism. That's probably the most obvious form in our culture. We live in a consumer society where we're constantly told that the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next experience will finally satisfy us. But Jesus was crystal clear about this. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, he says, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money."
And it's not just money or possessions. There's also what we might call ideological idolatry. This is when we take a political position, a social cause, even a theological system, and we make it more important than God Himself. We become more passionate about our ideology than about Jesus. We're more concerned with being right than with being loving.
Oh, that hits hard. I've seen this happen so many times. People who are so committed to their particular view of how things should be that they'll sacrifice relationships, grace, even basic kindness to defend their position. The ideology becomes the idol.
Exactly. And here's where it connects to our second danger: dead orthodoxy. Because sometimes our theology itself can become an idol. We can be so focused on having correct doctrine that we miss the living God our doctrine is supposed to point us toward.
Okay, so help me understand dead orthodoxy better. What exactly are we talking about here?
Let me give you another analogy. Imagine someone who's a trivia champion about marriage. They've memorized statistics about successful relationships. They can quote marriage experts. They know all the theory. But they've never actually been married. Compare that to someone who's been happily married for 30 years. They might not be able to articulate all the theory, but they know their spouse. They have a living, breathing daily relationship.
So, dead orthodoxy is like being the trivia champion instead of the spouse.
Exactly. It's having all the right answers about God without actually knowing God. It's orthodoxy, right belief, but it's dead because there's no life, no relationship, no transformation happening.
What are some signs that we might be slipping into dead orthodoxy?
Well, one major sign is when we can talk about God eloquently, but our lives don't reflect His character. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 5 describes people who have a form of godliness but deny its power. They look religious on the outside, but there's no real power, no real change happening in their hearts and lives.
James puts it even more bluntly. In chapter 2, verse 19, he says, "You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder." In other words, intellectual agreement with correct theology isn't enough. Even demons have that.
Wow, that's sobering. So we can have all our doctrines lined up perfectly and still be in danger?
Absolutely. Other signs include when we're more interested in winning arguments than winning people, when we feel superior because of our knowledge, when we've lost our sense of awe and wonder in worship, when reading scripture feels like a duty rather than a delight, when we're more concerned with being right than with being transformed.